Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we made it. The offseason is over. It's week one. USC's taking on Missouri State.
Yeah, I might be biased, but I think this is the best time of the year, right? The fall is incoming. You got USC football's back. Everyone's eyes are obviously at the end of the season on the college football playoff, the national championship, but you can't get there unless you handle business in week one, and that starts this week against Missouri State in the Coliseum.
We're back to our bread and butter. It's a preview episode. We'll have a recap episode taped on Sunday as well, so that's going to be our schedule going forward. And Cody, your schedule is pretty crazy going forward. You have some news to share.
Yeah, I was fortunately casted for a new show. I just signed my contract. It's called Arena Gridiron. It's going to be a new show this fall. It's through Underdog Fantasy, and it's hosted by Gilbert Arenas, who's a famous basketball player. I'm sure a lot of the fans out there know who that is. But he does a football version called Gil's Arena, and it has Swaggy P, Nick Young, who's a former Trojan on that one. But it's been very successful, so they wanted to do a football version this fall. Went through a long interview process. They watched Trojan tailgate clips. So thank you guys so much for all the support and kind of helping me get to that next step.
Yeah.
And then ultimately I was casted for the show. It's going to be amazing. It starts next Tuesday if you want to tune in, and then we'll have more of an idea of the schedule going from there. But it's going to be myself, Gilbert Arenas, Skip Bayless is back. He's going to be debating on the show. Jay Gruden is going to be on the show, Aqib Talib, and then Gerald McCoy. So it's an awesome cast. I'm so excited. Good news, though. Don't be worried. We're still going to do the Victory Podcast. We'll do preview and recap episodes every Wednesday and Sunday, and then I will still be a part of the Trojan Tailgate Show on Saturdays. My schedule is going to be wild this fall, but this is exactly what I've been working so hard for, so I'm excited. And again, thank you guys so much for the support and helping me get to this point.
We're so happy for you. Not happy that you're going to be sleep deprived, but welcome to the club. We'll start a sick counter for you over under as well.
Oh, no, don't jinx me right now.
No, you have a great immune system. I'll give you that.
Okay, good. See, but I feel like you're already jinxing me.
No, sorry.
I was going to say, too, I was about to hype you up and say I need some tips from Keely on how to handle all the stress and doing things every day. But I probably don't.
Is handled the right word?
Yeah, I don't know if I want that from you. But no, all jokes aside, again, the show starts next Tuesday. It's going to be live. Please tune in. Please watch it. And then we're going to do kind of a rotating cast throughout the year. But I'm hopefully going to be on a lot of episodes, and it's going to be exciting. But again, thank you guys so much for all the support and helping me get to that.
Woo! Very happy for you, Cody. Alrighty, before we dive into it, just a couple reminders. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the video version on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. And a reminder that the only way that you can get questions in will be on our Wednesday episode. That's when we tape. That's our preview episode. We're just going to be efficient. Part of the reason why we're being efficient this year is because Cody is a busy man. So we're just doing our recap, no questions on Sunday for our recap episode. So just a reminder there. And that way you can also be sure to look out for that tweet or question box. I believe we started putting them out around Monday, so look out for that there. Yeah. Alrighty, Cody, it's time for our first scouting report of the season. I'm sure you're glad to get back into the film. It's week one, Missouri State. What have you seen overall from the Bears?
Yeah, this is a historic year for this Missouri State football team. This is their debut as a Division I FBS school. Previously, they have been an FCS program for a while now. They were in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, but now they make that jump this year to Division I football at the FBS level, and they join the Conference USA. It is a very exciting time for them, and it's awesome to see and all of that. But with all that being said, let's make sure we give them a very warm welcome to Division I FBS moment this Saturday in the Coliseum and take care of business. But this is an interesting football team. They were very solid a year ago, 8-4 overall with their record. They were 6-2 in conference play, and they were a streaky football team. They lost their first 2 games, then they won 8 in a row, and then they lost their last 2. But when you look at this team as a whole, they are replacing a lot of production from last season. So the biggest question mark this year is what their personnel is going to look like on offense and defense.
I'm sure in that sense you have to lean heavily on the scheme you've seen on film. In that sense, what did you see from the Bears offense on film?
Yeah, on offense, they are led by coordinator Nick Petrino. Now, for my football fans out there, if that name sounds familiar, that's because he is son of legendary coach Bobby Petrino, who was the Missouri State head coach up until 2023. Now, Coach Nick Petrino runs a spread offense that likes to have a balanced attack when you watch the film. Matter of fact, they were 50-50 split down the middle pass to run from a year ago. But that was very interesting because when you look at the numbers, they were 5th in the country in passing offense, and they were 97th in the country in rushing offense, but they still made it a point of emphasis to stick to the run game and try to keep that going. And I think that helped open up the pass game. Although it wasn't very successful, it still kept the defense honest, so their play action worked, and it forced some of the linebackers and safeties down in the box. Now, overall, this is a spread offense, like I mentioned, and you're going to see them primarily out of shotgun, but they will show you different formations and different personnel groupings. They like to use pre-snap motion. They like to get some two-back sets to where they send a fly motion with the running back, get some guard tackle pulling and get them on the edge. They love to get the ball to their playmakers in space, so we've got to do a good job of working sideline to sideline this week. USC's defense also needs to be ready for some of those two tight end looks, and the reason they will do that is they want to get you into a base defense and then go play action and create some throwing lanes off of that and find some mismatches on that side of the football, and then also be ready for some pistol formation. And what that means is the quarterback's going to be in shotgun, and then the running back will be directly behind him.
Now, full disclosure, I did try and get a preview of the preview podcast out of Cody when we were taping Trojans Live on Monday, and what you did say is that their quarterback is notable.
Yeah, when you look at this personnel, I mentioned that there's a lot of turnover, but this entire offense runs through their quarterback. And my first red dot player of the season.
Look at that.
USC football is back, people. For those of you who have never seen this show before I get into this and don't know what we're talking about, a red dot player is someone that can disrupt your entire game plan if you don't account for them. He's a guy in the film room to where the coach has the laser pointer and he's shining that red dot over and over on the same guy that's making play after play, like on our team, a Mekhi Lemon or Jacoby Lane. On USC's defense, Eric Gentry or Kamari Ramsey. If you don't account for those guys, they will make it a very long night. So my first one of the year, and my only one on this football team, actually, is quarterback Jacob Clark. He is a very good football player. Like I mentioned, this entire offense runs through him. He's coming off of a phenomenal season a year ago, 3,600 passing yards, 26 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. That was good enough for him to be first team all-conference last season. He is a 6'5", 220-pound senior with a very strong arm. Does a great job of understanding what Petrino wants to get accomplished on a play-to-play basis, knows how to run the offense. He's a veteran on that football team. He's at his best when he can sit in the pocket, play 7-on-7, right, when there's no pressure on him, go through progression, find his check down. He is coming off of a phenomenal season from last year. He threw for 3,600 yards, 26 passing touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions, which was good enough for him to earn first-team all-conference honors in 2024. This offense relies heavily on the success of Clark. This offense will go as he goes. And what I mean by that is in those 8 games last year that they won, he had 23 passing touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. In the 4 games that they lost, he only had 3 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and that is amplified this year because of all the personnel that they've lost. They are not returning basically any production from last season. They lost their top 2 running backs, and they had 1,450 rushing yards. Their 2 top running backs from last year accounted for 1,300 of those. So they are completely revamping their backfield. And then at the receiver spot and the tight end spot, they lost 4 of their top 6 pass catchers from a season ago. Now, good news for them is they did add some talent in the transfer portal, and that brings me up to another key player that USC needs to focus on, and that's FIU transfer Shamari Lawrence. He's a 6'1", 210-pound senior who I expect to get the majority of the carries on Saturday night and to be a big factor in the run game. And then when you look at their receivers and who they want to get the ball to through the air, their top guy is Jamari Robinson, who had just under 600 yards a year ago. Now he's only 6'1", 165 pounds, so he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he has great hands, and he's a very good route runner. Now, when you look at the next guy on their depth chart, or their number 2 wide receiver, it's a guy by the name of James Blackstrain, and I think he's worth mentioning, but from everything I've been reading out of camp, it is said that he has been out with an injury, so we will keep an eye on that to learn more this week. But if he's not in there, the 2 guys that USC needs to focus on is Lawrence at the running back spot and then Robinson at the wide receiver spot.
This seems overall like a great first test for USC's defense. Can they make the Bears quarterback uncomfortable? Yeah,
that's the biggest storyline this week is, again, Clark loves to sit back there. He's not a mobile guy. He's not going to take off and run and hurt you with his legs. He does not show that on film. He is a definition of a pro-style quarterback, 6'5", 220 pounds, wants to sit in the pocket, be comfortable, go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to find his check down to throw it away. He's a very smart football player, and that's what you expect from a veteran guy. That's what their offense does so well, is throwing the football, and then, again, they'll run the football to keep you honest. And it's interesting. It's 50-50, but, again, I think that's just to open up the pass game, just to open up play action, just to take some of that pressure off of Clark, who has to do it all for this offense. And, again, he's non-existent in the run game, so they got to get their backs going a little bit as well.
All right, let's take a look at Missouri State's defense. What do you see on film, Cody?
This Missouri State defense is led by coordinator L.D. Scott, who is entering his 3rd season as the Bears DC. This is a 4-2-5 defense, which means it's going to be 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. So they're going to be primarily in a nickel defense all game long, and I expect that to be the case on Saturday night against Lincoln Riley in this air raid offense. They're going to show you multiple different coverages, and they're going to show you multiple different pressure looks. So you've got to be ready from start to finish during this football game because they try to catch you off guard. Now, they did struggle a year ago as a unit in 2024. They were 95th in rushing defense. They were 87th in scoring defense, 83rd in total defense, and they were 58th in passing defense. But where they do excel, and they do a good job of creating some momentum on the defensive side of the ball, is in getting after the quarterback and also in takeaways. That is their bread and butter. They led the conference last year in sacks per game, and they were also 28th in the entire country with 20 takeaways last season. That's what they want to do, and that's how they find success. Where USC needs to take advantage of this defense, though, like I mentioned, is in the run game. 95th in rushing defense a year ago. They do not like on film when you run downhill directly at them. When you take the line of scrimmage to them, when you take your offensive lineman to them, they do not do a good job of stopping the run. USC needs to establish physicality and dominance all game long. Get Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, and Brian Jackson going from the very first series. Again, we don't know what that rotation is going to look like, but whoever's out there, I want to see a lot more downhill running this week. I don't need to see a ton of off-edge stuff or getting guys on the outside, which we can to keep them honest, but I want to see some downhill, powerful running this game. Another thing that we need to be ready for is they'll bring a good amount of 2-back pressures and 2 linebacker looks and 2 linebacker blitzes. They also like to bring their nickel defender off the edge and give him a lot of room to work and bring that more athletic body type so he can get around the tackle and he can get around your your running back and get pressure on the quarterback. So Jaden Mayava needs to be ready this week to step up and avoid some of those rushes. They also do a good job of mixing up their coverages on the back end. They're going to show you a good amount of zone and show you a good amount of man-to-man. Now, they're not afraid to put their corners on an island on the outside, put 1 high safety, and bring a couple guys down in the box and trust those guys to play man-to-man. I don't know if they're going to do that this week against USC with Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, but if they do, and I'm the quarterback on that team, I'm taking that as an insult, and I'm going to make the right protection call, make sure everything's picked up with the pressure looks, and take shot after shot on the outside and force them out of man-to-man and make them play some more zone. Be ready for some of those exotic looks on third down. Similar to what USC does here under Danton Lane, you're going to see multiple linebacker looks, some overload looks. They want to force you into making the protection call to the wrong side and create some free rushers. But this week, Jaden Mayava needs to be confident and committed to his calls and be decisive. If you think the pressure is coming from the left and you've watched the looks on film, make a lucky call or a loosey call and live with it. Know that you are unprotected to the right, so you have a hot answer, or you have a throwaway, or move on. And if they're going to win some, which is going to happen because they're going to show you some new looks, then don't compound the problem. Don't try to force anything. Throw it away or hit your hot route, go to the sideline, get on the tablet, learn from it, and make those in-game adjustments. But you just, on third down, have to be committed to what your call is going to be, and then you can adapt as the game goes on. But you can't sit there second-guessing your call and not sure where you're going to go with the protection, and then we get delay of games, and then we get unnecessary hits on the quarterback. Be decisive, be committed, trust your gut, and then react off of that.
So in that sense, it's a litmus test for Mayava as far as the growth that we've heard that he's done over the offseason.
100%. And it's also going to be how well he works with Killian O'Connor or John Ray Reed. Whoever's in there at center, they've got to be on the same page. And then that's got to be echoed to the guards, to the tackles. Because if one guy's wrong with the protection call or Jaden's undecisive and he's not sure and you're getting a delay of game or a guy didn't really get the full call or you're not making a confident call, you're going to get free rushers. And that turns into hits on the quarterback. And that's what we want to avoid. We do not want hits on our quarterback. Let's keep him upright. But yeah, that starts with Jaden Mayava, and it starts with Killian O'Connor or John Ray Reed.
So as far as Missouri State's defensive personnel, it sounds like it's similar to their offense. They also lost a lot of guys this past offseason.
Yeah, 100%. They lost half of their defensive production from a year ago. They lost their 5 leading tacklers. They lost their top 2 leaders in sacks, and they lost their top 3 leaders in interceptions. It is really a completely new look defense for this Missouri State Bears football team. But they do have some good returners on that side of the football, starting with their safety, and a couple key players to look out for on Saturday is J.J. O'Neal. He had 49 tackles from a year ago. Another guy is their leader at that linebacker spot. He's a 6'1", 220-pound senior. He's a veteran. His name is Kanye Young. And then when you look at this defensive line, like I mentioned, led the conference in sacks per game last year. Lost a lot of that production, but they did add some good players in the transfer portal. The first one is Penn State defensive end Devon Townley Jr., and then the other guy that's going to be a problem in the middle of this defense is 6'3", 310-pounder Giles Chio, who is their defensive tackle.
All right, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the preview for Missouri State. It's interesting because week 1 is usually a scout of USC as well. We've talked about it in our preseason episodes, but what are we expecting from USC? And that's going to lead us to our next segment, which we dubbed What Are We Looking For? Which means what are we going to look for when it comes to USC? What do we want to learn about this team? But before we get into it, I just want to give a thanks to Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. Alrighty, Cody, I'm curious. The first thing that you're going to watch for on Saturday.
Yeah, the first thing that I'm going to be looking at is what does this defensive line rotation look like? USC added some much-needed depth to this defensive line room in the offseason, but now I'm curious to see who's going to be in that first unit and who's going to be with the second unit. What's that rotation going to look like? And I can't wait to see how Coach Lynn and Coach Nua and Coach Henney mix and match some of these different packages and personnel groupings, especially on third down. Are we going to bring in 4 defensive rush guys? Are we going to bring in 4, defensive ends? Are they going to keep, Jaw Jarrett and Keyshawn Silver up front to get after the quarterback? There's just so many unanswered questions, but I will say this. This is the most potential and the most depth, in my opinion, that USC has had at the defensive line in recent memory, and I cannot wait to see these guys get after it on Saturday.
And I also want to give a general disclaimer as we get into this segment that it is our luck that the first depth chart of the season is coming out Wednesday night. We're recording this Wednesday afternoon. So I know you've probably seen the depth chart now and you're going, well, guys, we know some of these answers. Well, we don't know at this moment, so we're just talking in general. But that's the general overview in PSA.
It wouldn't be the Victory Podcast if there wasn't something unlucky like that happened to us. But with that being said, still, that depth chart comes out and I'm curious to see what that first unit is going to look like, but it's defensive line. You're going to see a lot of rotation. So it may be on the depth chart is 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I wouldn't be surprised if some guys that maybe aren't starters play a little bit more on Saturday.
Well, I'm sticking with the trenches with what I'm going to look for on Saturday, at least one of the things I'm going to look for. And it was actually in our offensive questions episode, the offensive line.
Yeah.
Now, we have gotten a better sense since we taped that episode. Coach Riley talked about it on Trojans Live with you guys, and he also gave the answer to who's going to be starting center on Tuesday. It's going to be Killian O'Connor. So with all those pieces put together, I can kind of guess the first team O-line. Left tackle, Elijah Page. Left guard, Tobias Raymond. Center, Killian O'Connor, as Riley said. Right guard, Alani Noah. And then right tackle, Justin Tawanu'u. So that's going to be my guess as far as who we see first team. But I just want to make sure, do we actually see that on Saturday? And then after that, what does the second team consist of? Who does it consist of? How much playable depth is there actually? It's one thing if it's development reps that you get in the first couple games of the season from the offensive line, or is this, hey, we want to rotate these guys. This is a viable option. Riley did say that Reed will have a role on the offensive line this season. So how much do we see from Jean-Ray Reed, not only this game, but going forward? And then do we notice any differences with Coach Hansen at the helm at offensive line? So very curious to just see what that group looks like in week 1.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'll add to that too. That's what we saw in recent years with Coach Riley, where that first game was kind of used as a 1A, 1B at some of those positions to where the competition didn't just end at fall camp. It went into the season, and when you have a lot of depth like we do this year on the offensive line, I'm excited to see how that competition plays out this week. Now, the next thing I'm going to be looking at is who those guys are going to be blocking for, and that is that 3-headed monster that USC has in the running back room. USC has 3 very talented backs in Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, and Brian Jackson. And Coach Riley on Trojans Live earlier this week mentioned that this is probably the best running back room that he's had since he's been here at USC. Those are big words, and that's a lot of praise. Yeah. We also heard from Coach Riley on Monday in Trojans Live that Wayman Jordan is going to be out there with the first unit, so he will be the starter going forward. But my question now becomes, what does that rotation look like? Who's the second guy out? Who's the third guy out? Who's going to be your every down back? Who's going to be the third down back? Who catches some of those passes out of the backfield? Who's going to be your short yardage guy? Which I expect that to be Brian Jackson with the power that he has, but could we see some other guys in some of those goal line situations? And also, who's going to get the most amount of reps? I know Wayman Jordan's going first, but is he going to get the most carries? Is it going to try to be an even amount to where each guy gets, 7 to 8 throughout the game, and then you throw Jaden Mayava in there with a couple carries as well to see what they have going forward? Now, although USC is playing Missouri State, which is a lesser opponent, and I expect a lot of rotation, I still think we're going to get a very good idea of who is going to be that primary back going forward.
Now, I am biased, but I do want Eli Sanders to make a splash on Saturday. And
okay.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're already ruining your...
He's my pick for Trojan of the game.
Yeah, best of the game on Trojan Tailgate.
Yes, so if you watch the pregame show, which you should, 2 hours before kick, people.
Is this tampering? Are you trying... Because we do fan votes and stuff.
This is not tampering.
Are you plugging your vote already so that you can get...
Oh,
no, wow.
No,
Here we go.
I'm just saying I'm hoping for a great game for Sanders because...
I do too. I do too, but not for that reason.
I was winless last season.
Were you really? Shout out too, by the way, if you guys want to watch Trojan Tailgate Show, we do that every Saturday, 2 hours before kickoff.
Yep.
I was pretty bad at best in game as well. One of the last segments we do, I think the last segment, is we all pick who's going to be player of the game. And Keely and I struggled heavily last year.
We really did.
Yeah, we did.
It wasn't great.
I did get one win, but it was kind of by default because, anyways, let's not talk about it.
Fun thing, too, just PSA, the set is moving to...
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's going to be at the peristyle. So the fans, you can actually go and harass Cody. I'm just kidding, but you can...
No, please do. I like it.
You can go and it's kind of like a college game day setup a little bit where fans can come and kind of be part of the set. So.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, if you haven't been to the Coliseum, the peristyle is right under the torch, out of where the end zone is, where the Trojan walk happens, all of that. That'll be cool, though. I do like that. I think the on-field aspect was great, but the cutoff was... where the seats ended. You couldn't come all the way down to the set. Now you can walk up close and personal, hang out with me, Sua, Sean, Keely, and Jordan. So that'll be a lot of fun this year. All right, I'm going to wrap us up here with my final thought and the final thing that we're looking for on Saturday. And for me, that is Jaden Mayava's development. I've talked all offseason about Jaden Mayava being able to take that next step at the quarterback position. It is now his opportunity to go out there on Saturday and show that he can get the job done. Coach Riley mentioned on Monday during Trojans Live that Jaden Mayava has really come alive these last couple weeks of fall camp, and that is great to hear. That's what you want from your quarterback right before season starts, is to where he has the hot hand and he's really hitting his stride. Now, with that being said, the main thing that I need to see from Jaden Mayava this year is that he does a better job with his decision-making and protecting the football. I need to see that he can take that next step when it comes to the mental side of playing the quarterback position at a very high level. If USC wants to be dominant on the offensive side of the football, then Jaden Mayava cannot make those costly turnovers this year. Another thing that I want to see is him improve with his accuracy. That's something that's been very important, and I mentioned it before. Last year, in those 4 starts that he had a combined completion percentage of 58%. That is not good enough, especially with the playmakers you have on the outside. I want to see him have great footwork, stepping up in the pocket, throwing an accurate, catchable football, and allowing Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon and DJ Jordan to catch the football and have yards after the catch. I don't want it to just be, okay, that was somewhat accurate, you hit him in the stomach. I need you to hit them pinpoint on the upfield shoulder, hit them in the face mask so they can turn and make a play with the football after they catch the ball. That is so important, and I want to see him be able to do that on Saturday and let our playmakers make plays in space. The next thing that he needs to do is be more of a factor in the run game. We've talked so much about USC establishing the run game this year and the 3 great running backs that they have in the backfield. But if this run game wants to take that next step, then Jaden Mayava needs to be a big factor in that. I want to see him with some of those design runs. I want to see him with some of those zone reads to where he's reading the defensive end, crash down, pull it, and get around the edge. And then I want to see him take off on a 3rd and 10. When everything breaks down and no one's open and you're unaccounted for, step up in the pocket, take off and pick up 12 yards and get a first down and keep those drives alive. Those are so important. And then the last thing that I want to see from Jaden Mayava, and something we've heard about all offseason, is go out there and be a leader for this football team, but also have fun and let it rip. This is the same game that you have been playing since you were a little kid in your front yard with your best friends. The only difference now is that you get to go out there and represent the Cardinal and Gold in front of the best fans in the entire world at the best place to play in the entire world. It is a privilege to be the starting quarterback for the University of Southern California, and I expect Jaden Mayava to take advantage of that situation.
Alrighty, Cody, I'm excited to finally see some real football in the Coliseum on Saturday. It's time to get into questions. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Ralph's. At Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise on your budget. Save thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Steve wanted to know, Cody, besides the well-known starters like Jacoby and Mekhi, which one of the other starters could be a household name by the end of the season?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy that I've talked about all offseason and had a lot of praise for, and that's running back Wayman Jordan. And Coach Riley mentioned on Monday at Trojans Live that he's going to be the starter this week, so now it's his chance to go out there and make a name for himself.
De La Cruz wanted to know, what kind of wizardry should we expect from the advanced minds on our defensive staff?
I'm torn on this. I don't expect to see a whole lot, because, again, who the opponent is. I don't know if we're going to show them everything that we have, but also this is a very good passing attack. And like I mentioned, their key player is their quarterback, Jacob Clark. So we need to get pressure on him, and that starts with some of these different looks and these exotic looks on 3rd down, some of these pressure packages on early down to put them behind the chain. So we could see a lot, but I don't think it's going to be, obviously, everything that Danton Lynn has and the rest of this coaching staff. But I think this will be a good question, too, to maybe keep and then readdress after the game. Maybe do a film breakdown or an X's and O's breakdown and talk about what we saw that was maybe different from a year ago. But I'll have a better answer on that after this game and maybe something we can break down on the Sunday episode.
We got a question from No Second Best who said, do you see Jaden Mayava getting meaningful playing time this year? The D-line looks absolutely stacked.
I do, and I really like Jaden Mayava, and he was a guy last year that got thrown in the fire as a young player and was forced to play because of some of the injuries, and I thought he did a good job of showing some flashes of the potential that he has in this defense. And look, I know it's a crowded running back room, but I don't think Jaden Mayava is the type of player to get overlooked and to get buried on the depth chart. And you have to remember also that the defensive line room and that unit, you're out there for a lot of reps, and you're in the trenches, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to need breathers, and you're going to have great guys that are behind you to come out there and make some big-time plays. And that's when you get those opportunities. And I expect Jaden Mayava to be one of those guys that are going to take advantage of those opportunities and make a name for himself this year on the defensive line.
SoCal Manny says, which one player on offense or defense will surprise us on Saturday?
That's a great question. I'm going to go with a guy that I think is going to have a breakout year this season, and that's at the tight end spot. And I'm going to go with Walker Lyons. Now, I know Lake McCree is the leader of that room, and he's going to be out there with the first team, and he's going to be that safety blanket for Jaden Mayava, and that's what you need in a tight end. And we saw how well McCree played last year before his injury. But I think now Walker Lyons, with a year under his belt in this system, and people forget he went on a mission and had to get reacclimated to football speed and playing football again. I really think with that year under his belt and the things that I've been seeing at fall camp and the threat that he can create over the middle of the field and especially in the red zone, I think he's going to have a big year this year.
Surprise might be too strong of a word here, but I'm going to say Desmond Stevens, because in the opportunities he got last season, he flashed and had that pick against Penn State, but also the Rob Ryan effect. How does that development help his play? I'm very curious, but I think he's going to be a guy who people are like, oh, he packs a punch, so curious to see what he does on Saturday. Jonathan said, do coaches approach games like these with a plan to get younger players experience?
Yeah. Short answer, yes, 100%. And like I said, Missouri State is a very good football team, and you need to respect your opponent. But at the end of the day, we understand on paper, this is a team that USC should go out and handle business and have an opportunity for these young guys to play, hopefully by around the third or fourth quarter. I would love to see some of these younger guys get in and rotate in meaningful snaps. I don't want it to just be to where the game's out of hand and you have some guys that could potentially be starters and now they're getting thrown in. I would love to see, USC establish a lead early on when the starters are still out there. And if you have some of these competitions that have overlapped into season, let some of these 1A, 1B guys compete in live game action and see what you really have on film.
Okay, I'm combining these next two questions. Ron from Lower Alabama said, will Coach Riley play all the quarterbacks in the first two games? And Trojan Ty said, do we see Longstreet in either of the first two games?
Yeah, I would expect to see both Hassan Longstreet and Sam Hewitt in this game, but not for the same reasons that I just mentioned. This is not an open quarterback competition that's carried over into season. Jaden Mayava is the guy. He's the starter, but I do expect USC to get out to a lead in this game that's pretty comfortable for them so we can see some of these backups. And, I think all fans want to see that. We're excited about the future of this program. Hassan Longstreet is a guy that's going to be a part of that future, so I'd love to see him in some real game action. And that's going to help the freshmen, especially with the rule of where you can play 4 games and still keep your red shirt. So I would love to see him get some reps. And then Sam Hewitt. In college football, you're always a play away. You've always got to be ready. Hewitt's a veteran on this team that's going to benefit from some of these reps, and I promise you he's been great for the mental side of things for both Mayava and Longstreet in that quarterback room, but I'd love to see him get some reps out there, especially being a lefty. It's been a while since we saw a lefty here at USC, so it'd be cool to see both Longstreet and Hewitt get some reps on Saturday.
Lobo said, will Mekhi Lemon be a gunner again this year? If so, why do you think that is? It never made sense. Welcome back and fight on.
Fight on. Glad to be back. No. I really hope that Mekhi Lemon is not a gunner. And for those of you who don't know, a gunner is a guy on punt team that's out on the outside, and that's the play that he got hurt against Michigan as well. So you're on the outside of the punt, the ball's kicked. Normally you have 2 defenders on you as well, and you've got to run down there, and you're going full speed, and there's contact, and you got to make a tackle. I don't want our wide receiver 1 or 1A, 1B with Jacoby Lane. I would not like to see him as a gunner on the punt team. So hopefully that is not the case this year. If he is doing special teams in any capacity, hopefully it's at punt and kick return.
Alrighty, and to wrap us up, it's from Joe Osorio. It's not a question, but he said, happy y'all are back and ready to listen to the first preview episode, Fight On. We are officially back, Cody.
We are back, and that's Joe's an OG of the OG.
He is.
Manny as well. I mean, all these guys here. De La Cruz, another one. So it's good. I feel like I'm at home again. I know we had some preview episodes or some preseason eepisodes, but now it's game week. USC preview episodes and recap episodes. Check those out. We'll be recording those on Sunday. Are back, and I cannot wait. I feel different this year. I don't know. I mean,
really?
I have a great feeling about this season. I really feel like this is a year for Coach Riley and this team and the new coaches on staff and Chad Bowden and all the exciting things around USC football, I feel like this is the year that we can really turn that corner. And I'm excited to be a part of it, and I cannot wait for that to happen. But again, we can't get to where we want to be unless we take care of business week 1, and that starts Saturday against Missouri State.
Alrighty, it's surreal, but USC football is back in the Coliseum. That's going to wrap it up for our first preview episode. That's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all for the recap episode.